This controller I found pretty much nowhere on AliExpress. When looking at the specs, I was really intrigued. It seems to be a controller that is completely overkill for the platform that it's being sold for. So today we're gonna see what it's all about. There's something I need to address right off the bat. Hi, I'm Clef and you're watching Game Tech Talk. Now, I paid 56 US dollars for this controller, and I think it is because of the AliExpress sale that ends on the 19th. Right now, it is on sale for 35. Same store, same everything. They shipped quite fast. I suggest that you get there fast. There's going to be a link in the description box to not miss out on the sale, because if it really is as good as I think it is for 35 US dollars, it is an absolute steal. All right, let's get to the unboxing. I'm not sure if it's Chinese or Japanese or Korean, or I don't know where that company comes from. I'm not familiar with them, but I notice here the characters in Japanese, ie is no, and this is, I would assume, IINE. Let's open it. Let's see what it is all about. So here we have the manual, pretty big manual actually. Okay, we'll keep that aside. Here we have a dock. So that's the first very cool thing that we have with this one, a nice dock. You have a slot for a dongle. I see that we can control RGB here, the USB-C, and then of course that's where you sit your controller. So we'll check into that in a minute. There it is, the dongle. Wow, cool looking. We have USB-C, but wait. Oh, nice. Haha. So USB-A and USB-C, cool touch. Of course, the controller, so I'm just gonna sit it aside for a second. Braided cable, also very cool with the transparent tip here. It's not one of those where you're gonna have like 3 different D-pads, 2 different heights of sticks. You have none of that here. Now, when it comes to the sticks, you do have this kind of arrows that I really like. Feels good when holding it. You don't have any texture on the edges though, so you really focus on these 4 different lines to control your sticks. USB-C at the top, but you also have some extra buttons. You have to change your brightness for pairing. It feels really, really good. And before we go into ergonomics and feel, let's just have a quick test. So here we have the face buttons, the D-pad, stick click, shoulder buttons, triggers, back buttons, function buttons. It feels extremely like the Switch Pro controller in terms of the shape. It even has that little dotted feel on the grip. I guess the buttons are a little larger on the Switch Pro controller, whereas here they're a tad smaller, but the D-pad is definitely bigger and the sticks are infinitely better. They have lower tension, but the concave shape with the lines actually is very satisfying. And then of course you have those extra buttons. With a controller like this one, there is zero, and I really mean literally zero reasons why you would pick this one anymore. There's like no point at all. This one is considerably more affordable, comes with the dock. You have a lot more going with this one. So, you know, if you were looking to buy a controller like this for the holidays, that probably is the right time to do it. Considering we're gonna have backward compatibility with the Nintendo Switch 2, I'm hoping that these accessories will work as well. Time will tell if that will be the case, because, you know, Nintendo could technically block, and maybe there's gonna be new features on the Switch 2 controllers. So we'll see. My dock is plugged and no light is coming up, so that's expected. Let's see what happens if I dock it. So the button removes or adds the controller RGB, and it's a breathing that matches the controller and the dock. Okay, so we have this little animation here when it's pairing. Oh, there it is. I didn't even have to push L and R. It found it on its own. And I guess this button here should change the colors. Yeah. Oh, there's a little vibration when you change the colors. Oh. Okay, so we have this kind of, doesn't behave to the buttons. Okay, I guess we have this kind of wave. It doesn't feel like it's moving organically, but you can see the LED moving. So we should have turbo. We definitely have 2 mappable buttons. So I just want to see how these work. They do feel smooth. Now, the thing that I like with this controller is you have a 2000 level of precision. You know, whenever we talk about step resolution and you have that 0.0005, that's a 2000 levels of precision stick. And this is what we have here, but it is ALPS. So that's a controller that I'll be very curious to see what it's going to look like when benchmarking on PC. And by the way, you do have metal rings around the sticks to prevent scuffs on the sides. Definitely feels a little more, it kind of feels between a half and half between control and mid. I kind of feel that it's grinding a little bit on the sides here. It doesn't feel speed like it is often the case with metal. So I'm not sure if it is intentional, because you know some metals have this certain finish. It feels, actually this one feels faster, this one feels a little more control. The stick caps can be removed, but there are no replacements offered. I think this button that I wasn't sure what it does is probably going to be used for turbo, so let's give it a try. If I hold it and push B, yeah, it just vibrated, and lo and behold, turbo is now working. So if I push it again, we have auto turbo, and then if I push it one last time, turbo is gone. The interesting part with the back paddle is that you seem to have a button right over them. So what you want to do is you want to push once, and now you notice the light vibrates, and then you just push the button that you want to map and push it again. And then we have the button that is being mapped. Now that should also work for macros. So let's give that a try. Let's do, and push it again. And indeed we have macros. And macros respect timing as well. This controller has HD rumble, something we're definitely going to test. You have all your essentials for your Nintendo Switch controller, which by the way, it also works with amiibos. Let's test that. Okay, so we just hold it where it says IINE. Can it wake up the Switch? So right now it is closed. Let's go ahead and power it. It can wake up the Switch pretty quickly as well. I like that. Let's try gyro. Yep, looking good on gyro. And by the way, you can hold the turbo button to remove turbo on all your buttons all at once. So you just hold it, it's gonna vibrate, and that means that all your buttons have now removed the turbo function. Now, of course, I'm gonna blur the footage. I would assume you probably know why. And indeed, it is HD rumble. I will hopefully try to pick it up from the microphone. And this is shaping up to be a really good controller. And last but not least, a very important test. Let's go see how it feels in Street Fighter. Very good D-pad in the sense that it responds as well, but I don't like the feel of it. I don't like the feel at all. I feel it's a little too abrupt on the edges. It's a low travel, so you don't really feel the D-pad all that much. The texture is kind of this unpleasant, grippy kind of plastic. The problem here is not so much how it's responsive, it's really how it feels. So depending on what you like, that might not be a problem to you, but it's definitely usable. I guess at the end of the day, I'd rather have a D-pad that doesn't feel as good for my personal taste, but that works, rather than the opposite. Of course, I'd prefer to have both, but to me at least, it is not the case here. There is 0 center pivot on this controller. It's just not a satisfying D-pad to use, I find. Because it's such a low travel and it's a very tactile button, it does require a fair amount of force to push it. So I don't know that I'd want to play platformer for a long period with this controller, quite frankly. Again, it's not so much that it's not responding well, it's responding very nicely, but I don't like the feel of it. This would probably be good for someone extremely competitive. I think Rocket League is on the Nintendo Switch, if I'm not mistaken. That might be a very nice controller for these types of games. And that's what kind of shocked me a little bit when I looked at the specs, is this looks to be a very competitive like controller for the Nintendo Switch, but of course it's not the platform where you have the most competitive types of games. That's not to say that fast response time, low travel, mechanical buttons can't be appreciated. So that's where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. We don't see that every day. And one of the bigger exceptions is the MobaPad M6 HD Joy-Cons. And without further ado, let's bring the tests back to PC and see what it's all about there. Quick shout out to Tempest 3D. You may have seen it, Proto Man figurines. They were printed by these guys, which are a Canadian company that specializes in high quality 3D prints. And they're able to take projects both commercial and personal. They also printed amazing grips and D-pad modifications for my Rogue Ally. The prints are really high quality and I already dropped them a few times. These things just don't break. Very impressive stuff. And they even made me a custom one with my name engraved on it. Looks awesome. So if you're interested, make sure to look them up. Their address is in the description box. First, I did the usual, testing the sticks and pulling rate. Here are the numbers on screen, and then I jumped straight into Aimlabs. The sticks are really good. From one game to the next, I was jumping by 4,000-5,000 points. It's ALPS and it shows, and it's good quality ALPS. And again, something unusual in Switch controllers, so it was very pleasant to see. And definitely one of the reasons why I think this is a great controller to jump between devices and have reliable sticks. The tension is nice, the hold is nice. I also took that opportunity to test the dock and see if it acts as an antenna, and indeed it does. I tested all the modes, did everything I usually do, and nothing wrong to report. It's mainly positives. In terms of modes, you have the Nintendo Switch mode, an Android HID mode, a screen mapping mode, and a Xbox spoofed mode. Now, even past the Aimlab test, I kept using the controller, I want to say for about an hour and a half that I played with it. It honestly feels shockingly good. It's like that Switch Pro controller that is extremely competitive that you did not know you wanted. Overall, I'm very pleased with the outcome, and those are sticks I know I'm going to be using elsewhere. And again, a controller that if I just want to clock in a quick Aimlabs round, I won't sit this controller out in favor of another. I know that I can do something good with this one. It allows me to jump easily from one game to the next without being too conscious about what I'm using in terms of tools. Alright, let's carry on with the conclusion. And so that is it, guys. Considering that you can get this for $35 it is, in my opinion, a killer controller. Now, I can't help but think of the Nova Lite when holding this controller, and it feels completely different. This one definitely is more competitive centric. It's a little shocking to see a controller that is that good at something that specific, but I can't help but think of all the things that you get. The ergonomics and feel are really nice, very familiar for people who like the Switch Pro controller. So you really retain that kind of DNA, all while having things that you don't see a whole lot on the platform. Overall, I'm super happy with this controller. Could it have been better on some aspects, namely the D-pad? Absolutely, but it's shocking how good that it works. If I played my Switch games on the PC, for example, if I played a lot on emulators, that's probably the controller that I'd want to do it with, because I feel like this controller will allow you to jump from different games and give you a very good experience on PC and on mobile, while also giving you a very good experience when playing Nintendo Switch games. And one I am happy I got, actually. You know, this is one of those controllers that I know I'm not just going to review it. I know that I'm going to keep playing with it. For me, HD Rumble is so important, so I don't feel like I have to sacrifice that. And that's a big deal, at least to me. And that is it, guys. Let me know how you feel about the IINE Phantom Controller. Is that something you're considering picking up? Do you have another alternative that you feel like you could recommend in the Nintendo Switch Pro style controller? As always, thank you very much for clicking and watching the video. Please consider doing all the YouTube things, especially if you're new on the channel. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.